Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton, and this is really cool. I've got a special guest on today. I know I say that a lot with my intro, but this is somebody who probably knows enough about me to put me away for life, and then the same with him. Our friendship goes back. I was trying to do the math before I got on the call. I want to say it's like 46 years or 45 years or 40, somewhere in the 40s. So I guess it doesn't really matter once you get 4 in front of it anymore. But I want to welcome my best friend for 4 decades, Jason Purcell, to the show.
Thank you, brother. It's an honor and a pleasure. And long overdue. Looking forward to today.
I agree. And it was funny. We're talking off camera before. It's like, what are we going to talk about? Well, I think people would just love to hear our conversations anyways, because some of the stuff we talk about is very amusing, but also in the business world, right? I mean, this podcast attracts a lot of people that want to hear about what's going on with different markets, what's going on in the mortgage space. There's realtors that listen. There's over business owners that listen as well. But today I wanted to put some focus on, you've made a big change. Like you've made a change recently, and a lot of people in the industry. It was funny. You made the change and they called me and asked me what happened. I go, I have no idea. Like, I'm not the one who made the change. Like, why are you calling me? So let's talk about that briefly. I don't want to make that the whole conversation, but just kind of get into that, what you felt like you wanted to do there. And then we can just really dive into just what's happening in general.
Yeah. And you know that I was a partner and you were our chief sales officer for several years. And that was a dream come true to even make that, a reality for the two of us. Mm-hmm. But I've been in a family business for over 2 decades, and it was really all that I knew. And I had an opportunity, and there were so many signs leading up to me stepping away from the family business, for example. But I had an opportunity to partner with one of my great friends, Chris Vincent. And he said, let's take the retail division that's super special that we've created and then take that nationwide. And so I became the national sales manager for Plains Commerce Mortgage. And one of the things that makes us super unique is we are backed by Plains Commerce Bank. And we literally built a model from the ground up. And I know that we're going to talk a little bit about that, but we really looked at what was winning in the mortgage space right now. And one of the things that's been winning over the last several years is what is called a flat fee model, but it's more in the broker channel. And so what we're doing now is bringing that flat fee model that's been winning in the broker channel, and we're introducing it to retail. And I think that this is going to be a disruptor for the industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of change. A lot of things have happened. And this isn't me knocking on any model here, a broker model, a retail model, because I work in all of them, right? Like I have clients at every level. And I think there's a spot for every one of them, depending on what you want as an originator, depending on what you'd like to have. And that's the cool thing about that industry is I may be in the broker model for a while and it was no longer my thing. I wanted to go retail, or I was in retail and I wanted to go this route, or I wanted to go to non-delegated correspondent, or I wanted to open my own shop. Like there's so many different things you can do in the market. It's finding what works best for you, right? Like what do you thrive in? What areas do you like to work in? And that may be seasonality too. Like first 10 years in the business, you only wanted to do it this way because that's all you knew and you were a driving force there and it was incredible. And then you start seeing different things. And I'll give an example of something. Like you took me to a core event. I don't even know what year it was. It's been a long, probably 8-9 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. We go to a core event in Dallas, Texas. And there's this little guy gets on stage and he starts dancing to Eminem, Gavin Ekstrom, right? Who's a friend of mine now, but I can say that. But he gets on stage and all of a sudden I see this guy. I thought I knew what people could make in the industry. I thought I realized what the possibilities were. And I see this guy that made $12 million running this region and doing all these incredible things. And that kind of took the lid off it for me, like what was possible. Things were different. I didn't know that. So I think that this is really key about what you're doing now, is that you're sharing with people what's different and what's possible, and see if this fits their business model. See if this fits their life, right? So tell us briefly about what that is. And I know Chris Vincent's a great friend of mine too. And I know that if you guys connected on this, there's got to be some massive upside for people, because you guys are almost givers to a fault a little bit. Like you guys give way more than I'm comfortable giving. And I consider myself a giver. So let's talk that through real quick.
Yeah, when we talk about flat fee model, that has been what's winning. And so that's where, just from a transparency standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, from a profitability standpoint at the loan officer level, we really built this model to be loan officer centric, for example. I mean, obviously, we're a for-profit business, but, we have just also recognized that there's a bunch of layering of overrides and just so much built in or baked into the margins that, a loan officer, and I'm still in production, that we are forced to sell on the street, for example. And, I did a post yesterday and I had a loan officer reach out to me and he said, "Hey, I saw your post. I'd love to just price out a scenario." And, it was pretty shocking. And from a consumer standpoint, the consumer was paying over $3,000 more for the exact same rate under his model. And then he was making over $3,000 less on that model. And his response was, "Wow." And so we're meeting via Zoom, on Thursday, to just really just kind of talk through, what the model looks like. And it's not always just about pricing, or it's just not always about compensation, for example. And I mean, there's so much goes into this. And I think that's the cool thing as well. But, one of the unique things that, with us being bank backed, is any loan officer basically gets an all 50 state license immediately. And so you think about that. And I did a post last week to where, I had 9 licenses. Okay. 9 licenses. I had to get licensed in all of those states and then keep up with the continuing education, pay those renewal fees. But there's really no strategy around it. Yeah, you can post and say, "I'm licensed in Tennessee now," but there's no true strategy. You're going to pick up the onesie, twosie loans as they fall into your lap, for example, in most cases, but you're not truly having a strategic push in any of those markets in most cases. Now, some people do, but when you think about all 50 states, now there's a true strategy behind it. We can put our marketing team behind it. And I was actually meeting with our marketing director last week, like we're doing right now. And at the end of our call, I said, "Man, if we would have just videoed this, that would have been a gold call to be able to share with other loan officers." But I think that you can put strategy behind it. And I honestly believe that it would be easier to maybe build a business in other states versus your local market. Because when you think about your local market, a lot of times it's one phone call after the next to set that appointment. It's one belly to belly appointment, and maybe it's 5 belly to belly appointments to create that relationship or that partnership, for example. So I think that there's a ton of opportunity with the all 50 states license.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that some point in the next few years, we're going to have a refi boom. I'm not sure when, like we thought was a couple years ago, then like 2 weeks ago, they thought it was happening. And then, we're not sure when that's going to happen, but think about how effective you could be as an originator if you had those licenses when a refi boom hits in low cost refi states. I live in Indiana now, which is the lowest cost refi state in the world. It's like $12.80 to refi a loan. No, it's a little more than that, but it's super cheap. After living in Florida for as long as I did, where it's like 20 grand to refi a loan. It's just insane with all the doc stamps and everything else you got to do. But so if you started focusing on that business when you have that opportunity, people are going to bring business to you. And you and I built our mortgage businesses off of financial advisors. Like that's what separated us early on, 20 plus years ago. Like I had zero realtor relationships. I was all financial advisor when I started. And think about that. How many of those deals you missed on because the financial advisor, he's in Florida, but he started in North Carolina and he's still got several $100 million in business and up there. How are you missing out on that? This opens the door for someone to be able to address that.
Well, and you and I talked briefly yesterday, and you mentioned the financial advisors when I shared the all 50 states. Mm-hmm. And so right before this call, I texted my financial advisor, or I should say one of them, and I said, "Hey, what other states can you sell or give advice in?" And he said 49. The only state that he couldn't advise in is New York. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, that's so much opportunity, like you're talking about right there. I mean, there's opportunities that a lot of times we don't even think about that we could leverage.
Yeah, I mean, we're put in a box a lot of times, right? I mean, let's be honest. Florida's been a great state for originators for a long time. Like There's been great business there. Just from the time I moved there in 2016 to when I left CMP in 2023, our average loan size went from 200 to 400,000. Like literally, when I showed up, we're like 226 was average loan size. Like you think about that now, you're like, are you kidding me? Like you can't even. There's nothing for 226 in Florida now. But like, so we were boxed in there, doing very well, closing a ton of loans. But how different would your mortgage practice be as a true professional if you could service other markets? And I do agree. I think that's a major selling point for you guys to be able to do that.
Yeah, and you think about somebody like me who's been in the business for over 2 decades, for example, and you think about the database that I've built. I have over 1,300 realtors, and that's where I always talk about build the biggest realtor database that you possibly can. Not that you're going to be in relationship with all of those, but you can sprinkle market on them, and maybe you do pick up the onesie twosies, but I can take that 1,300 and now I can market specifically to them and say, if you have a seller that is relocating out of state, you know the transition is already tough enough. I want to be your go-to for helping make that transition as seamless as possible. I could go to any single loan officer that I have in my database as well, or market to loan officers that aren't licensed in those other states and say, I'll be the guy that you can trust your clients with to, again, deliver that great experience, to know they're not going to be taken advantage of. I'll give them right back to you and any referrals that come off of that. And then the same thing for your database, your portfolio of clients. Mm-hmm. They have friends and family spread out all across the country. You could be the go-to loan officer for all their friends and family. So again, there's so much opportunity. And that's where I'm saying you could put a little bit of marketing behind this and it would be so much easier than, call it the contact sport of belly-to-belly sales.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to go into like full product offering all that stuff with you guys. We could do that forever. And sure. If you're listening to this and it's something we'll have more conversations about, all of Jason's contact info will be in the show notes. You'll be able to reach out to him directly. It's not a bot that's going to answer the chat. You can reach out to him. He'll actually respond to you. Unlike if you DM me, it might not be me. It might be a bot. I'm just going to be honest. But like he'll reach out and follow up with you and you guys can have more of a detailed conversation to see if it's the right fit for you. So let's move on from that part. Let's talk about how different is your life now that you've changed this? Like what's it look like, Jason? How different is it?
Yeah. I a lot of times I'll say that the leader is the product and I would say Chris is the product and I went for the leader. And one of the things that blows loan officers' minds is I never asked to see rates. I never asked to see pricing until I was actually a part of Plains Commerce Mortgage. And I know that that's kind of, blows people's mind to think that I would never even ask that because I knew exactly what I was signing up for. And I should say who I was signing up for. And so that's been the biggest thing. And I shared with 2 loan officers the other day, I said, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I am literally drinking the Kool-Aid. And previously, I had to show up and be the coach and be the guy in the trenches, leading by example and bring all the tactics and, every single week and oftentimes multiple times a week. And now it's really cool to be able to show up as a spectator and as a participant. And then, like I said, to drink the Kool-Aid. And that's one of the big time bonuses. I think that is the true differentiator is the sales culture that Chris has built. And it's just a culture, it's a coaching culture, but there is true accountability. And, we talk about doing the work and we talk about joy is found in the results, but the results come from doing the work. And so that's where I actually just got off our coaching call with our loan officers earlier today.
Yeah. So just to be clear, that's Chris Vincent, not Chris Welton, just so everybody knows that who don't know him. People that are listening may not know who Chris is. But And the other thing is, just so you don't think Jason is just crazy and a lunatic and change companies without looking at pricing, he's known Chris for a long time. Like we had a wholesale relationship with him for a long time. Like I could go into a whole show about how he saved our ass during COVID. And I tell that from every stage I'm at when Chris is in the audience, regardless of what I'm talking about, I talk about Chris and what he did for us during COVID because he saved my family's ass. And I know he saved yours too. Just what he did for us was just incredible. But yeah, Chris is, Chris is a legendary leader. He's someone that probably could have said, I'm out a long time ago and walked away. He's done so well, but he's decided not to do that and keeps building and gets stronger and better every day. And I love to see him. He doesn't let me have pictures taken next to him because he's like half my size, but he intentionally gets on the other side of the pictures, which is funny. But great dude. Chris is a great dude. And there's not enough of those guys out there in any business, I believe. But for what I want to talk about though is how's family life different now doing this role compared to I know because I was arm in arm with you, the high stress, crazy role that you were in before. How different is family life now?
Yeah, well, you know that's super, super important to me. There's nothing more important. There's nothing that's my marriage. You know that my marriage is the most important thing. It's the thing that I invest the most time in. That's why it's the account that performs at the highest level. I didn't take any of the loan officers with me when I made that transition. I did take my personal team. And so right now we are working from our home and that's a really good setup. But family in the business is super, super important to me. But yeah, it's just been really, really good. And yeah, the best is yet to come. And you said something to me that, I've hung on to, and it's going to take longer than you expect, but it's going to be better than you can imagine.
Yep.
And I truly believe that we are building something special.
Yeah. And you're going to run into things like, and I mean, I built my company 2.5 years ago. When I went all in on my coaching company, and I had, like, this morning, I had a client that we've been crushing it. And he's texted me this morning. I talked to him. He goes, I don't want you to coach me anymore. I'm like, okay, we're gonna have a call tomorrow and break it down a little bit and go a little deeper than that. But like, that's an ego blow. That makes you feel like, wait a minute, dude, you just texted me yesterday that the last 6 weeks you've originated $21 million in business in 6 weeks. Let's talk that through. Right. So these things will get thrown at you. And so I did an extra workout this morning to get my mind right, to get through that so I could go on and win my day. But it does take longer than you think. I've been trying to get on massive stages for a long time, to the point I'm blocked on a lot of people's text messages probably that make those decisions. But I'm going to keep pushing and going and driving to get to where I want to go with that. And I know that you'll do the same with this piece. But we talked before we started recording about building a business that is built around your family instead of a family built around your business. And I'm blessed to have Welton 2.0 is what I call it, which is a second shot at having more kids and a wife that is just like, I still can't believe every day that I'm married to her. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she's at such a high level compared to me. And I've built that business, my family around the business, to the point of I say no to a lot of things. I just do. Like, I mean, even like if you text me, I'm like, hey dude, I'm hanging out with Leo. I'll call you tomorrow. Like, I just don't, in the past I'd have run the other room and had a phone call, but like I put them first, and running a business like this allows me to do that. And I think that what you're trying to offer people is the same thing. Do you feel that's the same?
We do. Yeah. And just so you guys know, I did text Chris last week, I believe. And he said, hey, I'm playing with Leo. We can connect tomorrow. And so he does truly live that. And that's where we talk about designing it. And it's designing your business around your life. And I've said that for years and years and years. I talk about balance, making memories with making money, for example. And there's nothing more important or long lasting than the memories that you get to make. And so I know that these times right now, I think, what were you talking about last week? You were talking about the alternating V-ups where Leo just came in and jumped on you. And you wouldn't have gotten to experience that, if you stayed in corporate America, for example. Yeah. And so that's where I love that you have really just designed your business around this amazing life that you have right now. And so, yeah, I mean, we talk about designing the business, and we've talked for years and years and years, like, think of, who your avatar or who your ideal referral partner is that you can be friends with, that you truly care about each other, that you're not going to always do life together, but you do want to celebrate life together, and you want to truly care about each other. You want total transparency in that relationship, and you want to be able to pick up the phone and there's never any call reluctancy. And so that's that kind of avatar ideal partner. And not everybody's building their business that way. And I think that we make it way harder than it has to be. But then when you think about that ideal partner, they're also going to refer you the ideal client that you truly want to serve. And so that's where I really want to focus on building a business that way, to where it's more fun. And I think that we need to put more fun into what we do.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I want to talk about call reluctancy real quick, because something I was reading this morning that just resonated from that. And I'm reading a book called The Big Trust right now, which is like, I rate my books based off how many pages I tab. And as of this morning, we're at 28 pages tabbed, right? And I posted this, and the author reached out to me the other day, and we started talking about the book, about all the things I took away from it. But what we call reluctance, when that kicks in, that's doubt, right? You have self-doubt. You have something that's trying to keep you from getting out there. And she says the simplest thing: when something like that creeps in, smile, because this means you care about what's going to happen next. Right? So if you're anxious about speaking in front of somebody, smile. Right? And I think the person that does it the best out of anybody I know is a guy named Amir Saheed. Doesn't he always smile when he's on camera?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not because he's super confident. It's because he's stressed about what the results are going to be, and he cares about it. Right?
Yep.
And so it's the same. So picking up that phone, you're going to make those calls. Let's smile before we make the call. Right?
Yeah.
And that's just such a difference, such a change. Something can change so much. Look, originators, if you're listening to this and you're struggling right now, take a step back and evaluate the real reason you're struggling. Because I coach some of the highest producing originators in the country. I'm very blessed. And they're killing it. These guys are crushing it. And they haven't stopped crushing it. But they're different. And the key is they think and act differently to become the person they want to become. And too many people don't do that, right? They want to be the next Michael Jordan or the next Kobe Bryant, or in our industry, the next Gavin or JJ or whatever. And they don't think and act differently like themselves. And so they're chasing shadows all the time. They're trying to be this next guy. Well, this worked. That post worked, so I'm going to go do that. And then they lose who they are. They lose their identity. And you're sitting back right now going, well, I did everything that he said I could do. Okay, but you lost who you were. And the people that are bold and authentic will win all the time. So I'll say it again. People are bold and authentic will win all the time. And that's one of the things that I try every day to be, is bold and authentic. And I know people don't like that shit, and it's okay. But a lot of people do.
Yeah, but I think one thing too is, when you're talking about being bold and authentic, you're sharing some of the struggles and challenges that you're going through right now. So you're coaching to that. You're coaching yourself through it. You're coaching your clients through that. You're sharing it on social, for example, but that's what connects, and that's the relatability piece. But you even shared with me, there's two types of loan officers, and there's the loan officers that are sitting there frozen and waiting on the market, waiting on rates, for example. And then there's the other ones that are going out and they're creating the results. They're creating the opportunities. And guys, we lost an offer the other day. We had 12 offers on a property. We had another one that we had 7 offers on. The market is hot. The market is hot right now. There's opportunity all around. And one thing that we shared this morning was the biggest expense is not doing the thing that makes you the most money. The biggest expense is that not doing the thing that makes you the most money right now. And so many of us are avoiding doing those money-making activities. If you will just pick up the phone and you will make the calls and you will show up, you will create opportunities and you will get the wins and you'll get the results and you'll bring back the joy. And I think that there's so many loan officers that are stuck right now, What would some of the advice or the coaching be to those loan officers, Chris, that maybe are in that place right now? And I think that what's happened is a lot of them post-COVID went home and never came back out of the house. And so you see so many that are working remotely right now that are stuck and might not have coaching in their life, might not have sales leaders that are at a level that can pull them and get them to the next level or get them unstuck. So what would be some of the advice that you would give somebody that's in that place?
Yeah. Well, I hope you guys have a pen ready because I'm about to unload some shit on you here. So the first thing is, do they have post COVID, right? Do they have long COVID is what they call it in the medical field, but do you have long COVID? And what I mean by that is, are you still comparing what you made during COVID with what's happening today? Are you still talking about how great you were in 2020 and 2021? Because let me tell you something, everybody was great. And this may hurt your feelings, but if you weren't doing 100 million in 2021, you weren't doing shit. I'm just gonna be honest with you. It's because everybody was doing 100 million that was really putting in the work. So get that aside. But the other thing is, what do I believe I'm capable of doing or becoming? Who do I believe I'm capable of becoming? And where do I get my belief from? And I talk about this a lot. The transference of wealth is such a big thing, but it's a transference of belief. So who else in my life believes in me, right? Who supports me? Like if I have a really bad coaching day, I know my wife is going to build me up, right? She's going to tell me that that's bullshit. Get it out of your head. Let's go. And so who do you have in your circle? Who are you talking to? But how are you winning the day? Right? What are you doing to win the day? And I've got something I could share with anybody that wants to DM or email Taylor. They can email Taylor at chriswelton.live and ask for the prize fighter day. And I can send you the prize fighter day. And it's very simple, but it's again, getting momentum. It's a few things we do every day to get momentum, to get more confidence. And it's like, I got to be motivated. No, you don't. You need to be disciplined. Be disciplined to do the things you know you need to do to get the momentum to be motivated. Motivation, anybody can be motivated, but it's showing up and doing the disciplines, and being stuck is not an excuse. Oh man, rates are tough. No, they're not. Terry Hatfield Dole is an originator I coach, and she worked with us for a long time.
Yep.
She's a big one about saying, I'll sell what's on the shelf. She has never once complained to me about rates. I sell what I got.
Yeah.
Whatever I have, I sell. Right. So if you're sitting here, like if you, and this is sad, I had a LO that used to do this. She would go to bankrate.com before she would quote a rate. And then she'd come yell at me because the rates weren't as good as bankrate.com. And I'm like, what are you going there for? Well, because my clients might go there. They're not going to go there. Like, and that's not a real rate anyways. We know that. But like, if rates is the reason it's holding you back, you got to get over that. If you're still trying to be the LO that offers every product in America, get over it. Stop. Find 2 products. And this is what I teach the new LOs that are in the business. Let's be great at 2 products. That's it. 2. And they say, what do you suggest? And I said, well, be great at DSCR loans and be great at FHA loans. Be known for those 2 products. Or if you want to stay in just non-QM, it's bank statement and DSCR. But don't go tell everybody you got every product in the world. When I started coaching, I tried to coach everybody. And then I said, okay, that's not going to work. I need to coach just in the mortgage space. Then I became known as an expert in the mortgage space. And then you know what happened? People from companies all over the country reached out to me for coaching now. I coach in all different industries, right? Because I was known as an expert. So stop trying to chase the be all for everybody. Become an expert in a niche area, and you're going to see yourself take over. Go knock on builders. Go look for builder turndowns. Go find hard deals, right? That's where people are accelerating and they're doing well in this business, this industry. They're becoming experts, being known for this one thing. I do this. And they, once you're known as an expert, then you'll get the referrals in the other business you're looking for.
I agree. And we talked about just the opportunity that's in the non-QM space, for example, and there's not that many experts, but that is the sector that's growing the fastest right now. And I think that, again, being the expert in that niche allows you to really connect with those top producers. And I did have a loan officer call me last week, and he said, how are you setting appointments with the top producers, for example, and what advice would you give me? And I said, do you have any particular loan products that you have that maybe another loan officer doesn't have? And I said, do you have a bridge loan, for example? And he said, yes, I do. And I said, well, okay, we'll call that loan officer or the realtor and say, I know most loan officers are calling to set that 15-minute coffee appointment with you. But if you're like me, you've already got enough friends. But I have a bridge loan that many loan officers don't have. And one of my realtors just made $40,000 because I have a loan product. Do you have 15 minutes that I could stop by and share that? And maybe we could create some additional opportunities for you this year without stepping on your loan officer's toes. And so if you can bring that to the table and potentially help them make an extra $40,000, $50,000, heck, $100,000 because you've got a loan product, they're going to listen to you and they're going to set that appointment and you're going to be different.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, like, so the bigger the problem we solve, the more money we make. First of all, that's what it comes down to. But the other piece of that is I like to touch pain points when I'm talking to somebody, when I'm talking with a potential agent from a loan officer perspective. And it's like, where did you have deals fall apart last year? How much money did you leave on the table last year because they didn't have the right product, or what problem didn't get solved for you? And they'll tell you. If it's a great loan officer or a realtor, they'll go, yeah, I had 6 deals last year that blew up because of this, this, and this. Man, I don't have a solution for that right now, but I'm gonna call you back when I do. They're like, well, you can't solve the problem right now. I'm gonna go figure out what it is and solve it for you. But you're gonna be different. And you're right. Everybody blows up the phone, the Monday power hours and all this stuff, and they're calling the same guys and nobody's answering it. Nobody's answering it. But we know the one thing that has worked for almost every loan officer we've ever coached. What's the one thing that's worked, Jason, for almost every loan officer we ever coached?
Picking up the phone.
Open houses.
Yes. We talked about that this morning.
Yeah. I mean, open houses. And I can tell you the number of people Jason and I have worked with in our careers that we saw go from 0 to owning a mortgage company because they did open houses. It's incredible. I mean, Greg Matthews went from 0 to owning a mortgage company because he did open houses.
And we're not talking about sitting in an open house for 3 or 4 hours with an agent. We're talking about visiting 10 open houses on a weekend and then finding out who you connect with and following up on Monday and growing a friendship that turns into a partnership. That's what we're talking about. And Terry, for example, you spoke about her earlier. I think 1 month last year, she did 53 open houses in a month. It might have been in a few weeks, actually.
Yeah.
So there's tremendous opportunity. And I knew somebody that relocated from Maryland down to Boca that was in the core with me. And in 2 years, he built a $50 million business in a brand new market.
Yeah. And that goes back to something too, is the belief. What do I believe I can do? How do I take the lid off what I think my capacity or my cap is? I have a client that's down in South Florida, Delray Beach. He did 37 million the prior year. The next year I coached him, he broke 100 million. Right? Mm-hmm. It's not because I did and he had a magic wand. It's because we changed what we thought we were capable of. And then when we started thinking about what we're capable of, we designed our day and our routine around what a $100 million producer would do. How would they show up? How would they act? I'm not saying fake it till you make it. Go do it and be it. Right? And that's where a lot of people lose it, is like, and here's the thing. Not everybody wants to be a $100 million producer, guys. It's a lot of work. Okay. Yeah. You can make a great living doing $20 million a year in production, especially if you work for a flat fee company. You make a great living, right?
100%. Yeah. The other thing, when we talk about designing your business, I think a lot of times, especially when you're newer in the business, you'll call on anybody, you'll work with anybody that has a pulse, for example. I think there's a big thing in calling on the right agent that is then going to introduce you to the right client. But then when you're working with those bigger agents, they're the ones who have the influence. And so if I'm working with that big agent and she goes to another person in her office and says, hey, you need to meet Jason Purcell, for example, guess what? That other agent might actually call me, or my agent is going to get us on a 3-way text and I immediately set that face-to-face appointment, for example. A lot of times when we're working with that lower producing agent, they have no influence inside or outside of their brokerage, for example. And so that isn't somebody that you can really leverage. And that's where I always talk about quality and then obviously adding the quantity on top of that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we want to be in business with the right people. I'm a strict no asshole policy. Just not interested. Like if when people would call me when I was in my role at CMP and they would be mad, like they would talk, they'd been nasty to one of my agent or one of my loan officers. I'm like, no. That's not how this works. And that's one of the things I think we were really good at is our number one client was our team.
Yes.
It wasn't anybody else. And we treated our people with respect and we defended them, right? Like we would block and tackle and defend our people. And I believe that if you're running a team and you're listening to this and you're not doing it that way, change that immediately. It'll create longevity for you. It'll make people feel appreciated more so than they might in other cases. But fire the wrong people. Get rid of them. Like every time I've gotten rid of a client that was not a good fit for me, that he was paying me a lot of money, you're not going to believe what happened. Something else showed up in the next couple of days and it filled back up. Like, did it hurt? Yeah, it hurt. Of course it did. But I can tell you, we had a loan officer that worked for us years ago that was number one and was the most toxic guy on the planet. Like he just was. And I know it was tough for you and BJ to get rid of a guy that was bringing in that kind of revenue. But what happened as soon as he was gone?
Stress levels went down. The environment got better. We attracted additional loan officers and we started breaking records and we
never went backwards.
We did not.
Like literally like this guy was a big producer, like big. If he could have just kept his head on right, he could have done 200 million. He was just kind of guy, but he was toxic. So it was removed and that branch did more like the next day. Like it never went backwards from there. Like it was the craziest thing you've ever seen, but you got rid of the wrong people. And it's the same in your environment. If you're chasing the wrong people, you're going to get the wrong results. Right.
Yeah. And that was the advice that I gave a loan officer who doesn't even work for me 2 weeks ago. And I said, you need to get rid of this particular agent who is disrespecting you, is not seeing you as an equal or a valuable partner. And I said, you will replace them in the very next week. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So somebody's listening to the call. They're new in the mortgage business. Somehow they got to this show. Somebody sent it to them and they're new and they're listening to two guys who've had a long time in the industry. Right. So we're maybe above what the conversation is. What would you say to somebody that's brand new, Jason, that's starting out? Like what would you tell them to do? I mean, it's different when you started out, like you were chasing these just different types of loans. You'd go to the builder show and all this crazy stuff, the convention center and like all these different things. I was chasing financial advisors, like literally door knocking financial advisors, but that's what we did. Right. And that's how we became successful, but things are different. What would you tell somebody that's starting out today?
Yeah, I think that we always have to have a beginner's mindset. And I question myself, would I do some of the things today that made me successful and created opportunities for me 25 years ago? And I don't know. But you talked about open houses. I think that would be a must. You have to have that in your back pocket and you need to double down. 40-hour work week in the beginning is not possible. You may have to work 60. You may have to work 70. You may have to work 80. Now there's seasons for doing that. And then you need to take a step back, for example. But I think that everybody becomes a prospect. And that's something that I think when you've been in the business 2+ decades, you take that stuff for granted. Back then, I talked to everybody. And that was before I even knew anything. And I talk about going into the home and garden show at the Orange County Convention Center on a Saturday morning with my cousin, who's was my business partner, BJ, and my dad. And when I walked through that door and I hadn't even closed a loan yet, I was 6 weeks into the business. I just knew stepping through that door that every paying vendor had something to sell and maybe I would be the loan officer to help them do that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I had 50 talk tos, 100 talk tos, 150 talk tos, but when I left that home and garden show, I walked out with one business partner. That one business partner equated to over 6 figures in income over the next 18-month period, just because I was having conversations when I didn't know what the heck I was doing before I had even closed a loan.
Yeah. I mean, that's the difference, right? We call it the rookie mentality. Why aren't we working like a rookie? And I asked that to some of my top performers I coach right now. I'm like, are you showing up like you should be?
Yeah.
Right. And they have to be held accountable to that standard. So,
and that was something, and that was something even that we coached to this morning, because you think about, what happened with rates over the last, call it 10 days, 9 days. They've gone up a little bit, just a little bit, right? And so I think that so many people allow the rates or allow the market to dictate their activities. And we talked about really creating those activities. And I know that the big word is create the strike rate, from a refinance standpoint, and get that buy-in and get something signed so that you can have 30, 40 opportunities already preset to where then if rates do touch that certain mark, then you immediately put those loans in the process. And I think that most loan officers aren't doing that. They're waiting for the market and then they're calling. But guess what? A lot of the loan servicers are calling right now as well. And then it's too late. I talked to a client last week and she said, we get 3 phone calls a day. They call me first. And if I don't answer, then they call my husband. And if he doesn't answer, they call me back. And so we don't have the bandwidth to do that, but we've got to be proactive and set those opportunities up and let them know that we're going to call them when it is the right time and when it truly makes financial sense versus just trying to get a loan like the loan servicers or every other solicitor is doing right now.
Yeah, and that goes back to CRM management 101, which is you have to stay in front of people. I had a client yesterday. He's like, I've been calling people to set up refinances, and some of them are answering, but some of these people have ghosted. They haven't talked. They haven't answered. I said, when's the last time you called them? Oh man, probably like 2 years ago. I'm like, do you think they have your number stored in the phone? Like, we got to stay in front of these people, right? And understand that relationship is dependent on you building it, nurturing it, staying in front of it, right? I rather have 200 people in my CRM that know me, like me, love me than 5,000 people that have no clue who I am. And everybody's gotten away from that. So the people that master the CRM game right now will absolutely crush it nonstop. I've got a client of mine that I got to call this afternoon. He just turned 28 years old. He did 126 million last year. Like, the guy is on it. He's got a massive team he's built. He's got dialers that call his database nonstop. And he does about 20 mortgage reviews a week, 20 with clients. He's got spots on his calendar. They book it. He knocks it out and does it. Okay. But that's why he's got over 100 loans in his pipeline right now. I mean, he's built this fine-tuned machine, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes because he listened when people gave advice and he worked his ass off and he stuck to it instead of you telling me why it's not going to work. Because a lot of people are like, oh, that'll never work.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that most loan officers are doing is a lot of times they prepare that refinance before ever having the contact with the client. And so I think that you should make all the contacts first, find out if there's an interest, find out if there is potentially a benefit, and then you do the work behind the scenes because shoot, you don't know if the client has refinanced even a lot of times. And so that's where, again, you can make 20 phone calls in the amount of time that it takes you to do 5 scenarios, for example, but you make those 10 connections out of those 20, for example, and that creates those 5 opportunities. And so again, that's a time management tactic, but we've got to get out in front of it. And that's where there is a cost of waiting to refinance sometimes. So if we're waiting on 0.25%, maybe that cost of waiting outweighs the benefit. And then the other thing is, talk about the cash flow savings. Talk about if you continue making the exact same payment that you're currently making today, instead of refinancing for 30 years, that loan would pay off in 22 years. Or talk about, increasing 401k allocations, whatever that is, but be different. Don't just come out there and selling a rate. And a lot of our clients are servicing debt. A lot of our clients are servicing debt and sitting on a ton of equity right now and could benefit right now from that refinance versus waiting for an extra 0.25% in rate.
And here's what I want you to do. I want you to reach out to the client, whether it's phone or text. I want you to say, I'm not sure if this is for you, but I just saved my client X amount of dollars a month on a refi, and it looks like you could benefit the same way. That's it.
Yep.
That's all I'm asking, right? It's simple. They may tell you, pound sand, you haven't called me in 2 years. Great. Check them off the list, move on to the next one. But you got to stay in front of them with the right messaging and ask the right questions. I mean, when we look at that opportunity, the refinances should happen. There's opportunity all the time, even when rates go up. People don't look at it. They look for the low-hanging fruit, but you don't know what someone's gone through unless you do an annual mortgage review, or semi-annual. Some of my clients do. Yep. You don't know what's going on in their life. What's happened? Credit cards 25%. They've got a sick parent. They're trying. I mean, like, there's all these different things, and you're not doing what you said you would do if you said you were a mortgage planner in the beginning. You're doing exactly what you sold them, why they should go with you, and you're not doing it.
Yeah, I think Todd Duncan used to say, when people would say mortgage planner for life, well, you have to be in front of them during their life. And so many times we say that we want to be that mortgage planner, but it's out of sight, out of mind. We're always looking for that next opportunity, for example, when the fruits are right here at your fingertips.
Yeah, I agree. All right, man. As we wrap this up, brother, it was my pleasure having you on here, man. I'm excited about
Appreciate you.
about what's happening next for you, and the growth and everything that's going on there. And anything else anything you want to part with?
No, like you said, there's not a one size fits all, but if there's anything that resonated with you, if you would like to explore any other opportunities, Chris is going to share my contact information, but my personal cell phone is 407-383-8884. And my email is jpurcell, and that's JPURCELL @plainscommerce.com.
And that is his cell phone number, folks. That's not a fake number, because I was checking him and make sure that wasn't one of those fake numbers, but that is definitely his cell phone number. So reach out to him if you have some questions, and see if there's an opportunity there for you. He'll give you any advice you want in the mortgage space. Like I said, he's a bigger giver than I am, but he will help you out any way possible. So thanks for listening. If you think there's somebody that could use this information, let's share, let's like it. Let's take this one viral. Take care.